Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. In life, there are three types of people who become ill, who get sick. One type of person becomes sick, becomes ill, and doesn't know that they're not well. And the example of that from our scriptures is Ravana. Ravana was not well, and he didn't know that, and this led to his destruction. The second type is ill, is not well, but knows this. And just like you and I, whenever we become ill, we seek someone's help. In our scriptures, the reference to such a person who seeks help is Prince Arjuna. That he knew he wasn't well, and fortunate for him, his remedy was right in front of him. For us, our remedy is right in front of us too. We just have to develop the eyes to see the remedy in front of us. The third type of person doesn't allow themselves to get sick, doesn't allow themselves to fall ill. And the example from our scriptures of such a being, Sri Lakshmana. That when his mother said, if you stay in Ayodhya, you'll be leaving. Because wherever Lord Rama is, that's where Ayodhya is. If you stay here, you'll be without a mother. Because Mother Sita is now your mother. And he internalized that so deeply. When Lord Rama picks up some of Mother Sita's jewelry in the forest, as she's letting this go to leave a trail, in his anguish, he turns to Sri Lakshmana and says, do you recognize this jewelry? And Sri Lakshmana has the same anguish, the same tears are flowing from his eyes. And he says, I don't know. I've never looked past her feet. He did treat her like his own mother. And so he never fell ill. In the same way, there are three types of people who learn in life. The wise learn from other people's mistakes. The average person learns from their own mistakes. And the foolish person doesn't learn from anybody's mistakes. Not the wise, nor their own. You and I are trying to be like Lakshmana, but we're more like, trying to be Lakshmana, but more like Arjuna. We're trying to be wise, but we're more like the average type of person. Right now, we are studying how to release ourselves of fear. And through the discourses, through the discussions, I hope that the tangible nature of fear is coming to our understanding, how pervasive and how powerful fear is. And the only way to be released of this fear is to move with dharma. The word dharma means that which upholds, that which nourishes, that which supports, that which integrates. An example of that, the dharma of sugar is to be sweet. If sugar is not sweet, it's called sweetener. If sugar is not sweet, then you can't call that sugar then. Dharma is that which integrates. So whatever we do in life, we should ask ourselves, is this adding to my integrity? If it's not, it's adharmic then. If it is, this will protect me. In our scriptures, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. The one who protects dharma is protected by dharma. The one who lives dharma is the one who's freed by dharma. And so what we're studying is build your own chariot. Build your own dharma ratha. Puja Swami Chinmayananda says, tea by nature is bitter. So what do you put in tea to make it more consumable? Sugar. So if I put sugar into my tea and sip it, but it's still bitter, there's one or two problems. One of the problems is I didn't put enough sugar. But if I did and it's still bitter, what could the second problem be? I've not stirred the sugar. Our life by nature tends to be, I don't want to use the word bitter, challenging. So what do we do to make these challenges more sweet? We put knowledge into life. Now, two problems. If my life is still challenging, if that's the only perspective I have, two problems. Either I don't have enough knowledge. And I don't know everyone in this room, but I'm confident in saying that nobody in this room lacks knowledge. Lacks wisdom, that's a different discussion, which we won't entertain right now. But lacks knowledge, no. The second is we're not practicing this knowledge. We're not internalizing this knowledge. This knowledge remains in this ashram, and as soon as we leave this ashram, the real world kicks in, doesn't it? That's what we call it. This is the fake world, and that's the real world. So there's no exchange. Like a dream, you can't bring in one to the other. You can't bring some stuff from the Matrix into the Zion. That's the way we live when it comes to this knowledge. We have to internalize this. This is the point, as today, I believe, Karthik and Akhilesh were leaning us towards, the point of the discussions. These discourses are giving you bricks. Not throwing bricks, they're giving you bricks. The discussions are the mortar. You have to ensure that these bricks, there's no gaps where my peace can escape. And I'm sure through the discussions, based on what you shared today, you are doing that. This is what Puja Swami Chinmayananda's vision was. He said, Shravanam, Chintanam, Kathanam. Shravanam, listen. Chintanam, think. Kathanam, share. The backbone, not only of CHYK, but of Chinmaya Mission, is the study groups. If you study the typical politician, they're out to change society, but they are not ready to change themselves. If you study the typical spiritual leader, they're out to change themselves and not to change society. But through their reformation, society naturally reforms. We will be protected when we live dharma. And I was thinking about protection. Remember in the Mario Brother games when you get a star and you become invincible either in Mario Kart or the Mario Brother games? Then you have no fear other than if you land in a hole, right? But nothing else can hurt you other than if you land in a hole. That's what dharma is. Nothing, and there's no hole in dharma. Even death, like we showed in the picture today, if I live by dharma, death becomes candy for me. It's just a sweet experience. But if I don't live a life of dharma, then it's poison. We are protected by living this. Prince Arjuna wanted to run. He's in this battlefield. There's 2 million people there, and he only sees 2 of them. And from these 2, he wants to run. And shloka after shloka, he's telling Lord Krishna, this is the reason I shouldn't fight. This is the reason I shouldn't fight. This is the reason I shouldn't fight. And Lord Krishna, like a real psychiatrist, says nothing. Come back next week. But he says nothing because Arjuna is not sound in what he's sharing. Because even if Prince Arjuna went to the Himalayas, like one of the Bollywood couples was going to the Himalayas today in separation, even if he went to the Himalayas, where would his mind be? On the battlefield. And Lord Krishna is telling him, think long term. If the best player on a team leaves, what happens to the morale of that team then? It starts to break down. 1.2 million start attacking these 800,000 males. After they kill all the males, where are they going to go? To the females. After they're done with the females, where they're going to go? To Arjuna. See, he's not seeing the full picture. Lord Krishna is encouraging him, think big picture. None of this prisoners of war business happens back in the day. The rules of engagement is you live or you die. This is what's being encouraged. Each and every one of us are supposed to be where we're supposed to be. Those who are studying business, those who are married, those who are struggling with their health, whatever it is. This is our field. And we're never put into the wrong field. I joke about this. When I lived in India, I came to love India. And I share to myself that God made a mistake with me, that he should have put me into a Kannada family, but instead he put me in Canada. So I'm not planning on being reborn again, but if I am, I'd like to be born in Punya Bhumi, where the spirit of India, Bharata, the one who revels in light, the one who revels in knowledge. We may not live in Bharata, but if we live in Bharata here, we are living in Bharata then. This is a choice we have to make. Brief review. This morning we studied the second flag. Second flag is Shila, which means character. Our character is built by the way we think, so we have to be vigilant about the way we think. A study by CBC showed that the music a 12-year-old listens to becomes a catalyst to the formation of their personality. Whether it's rock music, R&B, whatever it is, because that's what they're thinking about. And as you think, so you become. In Vedic culture, Vishnu Sahasranama is chanted in the morning. Lalita Sahasranama, Hanuman Chalisa, just played in the background. And when it comes to thoughts, when it comes to character, we have to learn not to be possessed by the thoughts, and so then we don't have to act on our thoughts. Who said you're your thoughts? Did the physician say you're your thoughts? Did your parents tell you you're your thoughts? Why do we possess the thoughts? Seems like the thoughts possess us then. Just watch them. And the way that we said we'd practice this, sit with elders. Get to know them. Get to know their life story. We have a lot to learn from history. Then we began to study the 4 horses. The first horse is Bala, health. We need to be healthy in every facet of life. Physically, emotionally, financially, intellectually, spiritually, in every facet. And a prominent thought was the more balanced we are, the more balance is created. The more balanced in body one is, the more balanced in mind one becomes. This morning we tried to still our body because then the mind becomes stilled too. Balance creates more balance. And the way we try to practice this, 3 meals a day. Not 2, not 4, not 1, but 3 meals a day. It keeps the metabolism going then. Often we live on 1 meal. Metabolism doesn't know how to keep up with that. Stores everything as fat then. And we know that's what's happening to many nations across the world. Second horse, Viveka, discrimination. And that is, what will bring me joy in life? What will not bring me joy in life? Many of you, I'm sure, chose to be at this retreat. Many of you were forced to be at this retreat. Those who chose, you could have done anything this weekend. But you knew that what you would have extracted from this weekend would have been much more than you would have extracted from any other experience. That's you practicing discrimination. Keep it up. The way to practice discrimination, to make it more tangible, I'd said we should end Judgment Day. Here's how to end it. The next time we judge someone, we have to go up to that same person and tell them something positive about them. If I go to a reception and the food is too spicy. I should go to the host and tell them something positive about that too. We have this resistance to compliment people, and we have this tendency to criticize. Match them up then. And slowly that judgment will end. Do you want to know why we fear public speaking? It's because we're always judging the speaker. So when we become the speaker, we think, oh man, now everyone's doing what I do to them. But if I stop judging, I'll stop fearing then. We only project what's in our hearts. How do you know if you're a good person, a loving person? By the smiles of the people around you. You can't be a happy person without causing the people around you to be happy. So if everyone's crying around you all the time, look in the mirror, do something. And the third horse was Dhamma, discipline. And that is to use the sense organs intelligently. Use the sense organs. Abstinence often creates attachment. I'm not going to listen to music. I'm not going to listen to music. I'm not going to listen to music. But what am I thinking about? Music. And then I just do it in an extreme fashion. Use the sense organs intelligently. And the way to practice this, not multitask, but unitask. One task at a time. We will be more efficient, more effective. And the last horse was parahita, which is consideration. And that is the evolution of focusing from myself to you. The person who focuses on society is an evolved person. The person who's only focusing on themselves, and I don't mean in a self-development way, that person is evolved. We have to practice this by giving percentages of our time away to others. Because the secret to being happy is to make others happy. Give people your time. In whatever way. You remember the Fresh Prince? He donated that money so the kid can go to basketball camp or whatever it is, or buy basketball shoes. Right? It doesn't have to be in a formal way. Do it in a way that will contribute to other people's happiness. The horses are done, and now this leads us to the reins. See the picture behind us? These horses are traveling on a path. The path are sense organs. The horses represent, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita's analogy, the sense organs. The road is the sense objects. My apologies. The horses are the sense organs. How many horses are there? 4. Good. Just because I put a 5 up doesn't mean it's 5. 4. What controls the sense organs in our own personality? The mind. So in Srimad Bhagavad Gita's analogy, the mind controls the sense organs. Connecting this to Vibhishana Gita, the first rein is kshama, or forgiveness. Kshama, or forgiveness. Forgiveness at a spiritual level, I'll put it in an application form. The highest type of forgiveness, something we should all work on. There is no need to forgive because I never took offense in the first place. That is the highest form of forgiveness. There's no need to forgive. You insulted me, I didn't even know. That kind of attitude. Then working up to that is if someone forgives you, you give that forgiveness. And in this, we tend to say forgive and forget, but that's not the most intelligent way to live, because if I forget, then you'll do it again. So forgive and adapt. We just say forgive and forget because we like alliteration. But that doesn't make it right. Forgive and adapt so that we don't get burned again, so we don't get hurt again. But we've forgiven them. And the lowest level of forgiveness, which people like me are still at, There's no need to forgive anyone because I'm not going to forgive you. That kind of idea. The tamasic level, that you can ask all you want, but I'm not going to forgive you. So we have to work through this. And what is forgiveness? Another word for kshama is kshanti. And wherever there's kshantihi, within that word is shantihi. Wherever there's forgiveness, there is peace. And forgiveness is forgiving. This is what forgiveness is. And what does it mean? It means letting go. Letting go of negativity. Each and every one of us has a lot of faults. Each and every one of us has a lot of weaknesses. We make a lot of mistakes. Why is it that we don't allow other people to have faults, weaknesses, mistakes? When I don't forgive, I hold on to that. When I forgive, I let go. And the hilarious part of this is that you can't have weaknesses, but I can. That's the way this game is played. That I have this double standard for you versus me. Faults, weaknesses, mistakes, accidents, let it be. We want people to let us be, we should let them be too. That's it. The Beatles have a lot of profound messages if taken with the right perspective. Let it be. When we don't let it be, we're holding on to this weight and it just makes us heavier and heavier and heavier. Every negativity is like that. It's directed outwards, but who suffers? I do. The suffering happens inside. Yesterday someone told me it's like holding a hot coal. The more you squeeze it, the more one's hand burns. But if I let go, I don't get burned though. That's what these negativities are like. Bhagavan Rama, when all of his mothers came to meet him in the forest with Bharata, which mother did he go to first? CHYK. First person he went to was the one who took the kingdom away from him and sent him to the forest. Lord Krishna let Shishupal insult him 100 times, publicly. In Bhikshu Gita, the people in the village urinate on this sadhu, and he does not react. The example Pujya Swami Tejmayananda gives of Ekanatha Maharaj, where the person is paid to spit on the master. And every time he gets spit on, he walks to the river and takes another bath. Walks to the river, takes another bath. The 100th time that person starts crying and saying, I insulted you 100 times and you've not even reacted? And he said, insulted? You've blessed me. I get merit every time I take a bath. You gave me 100 reasons to take a bath. Perspective. Never allowing that negativity, that incident, to turn into a negative. The best defense is a strong offense. Like that. So many people live like this. So many people still live like that. Jesus Christ says, forgive them for they know not what they do. We make mistakes. Other people make mistakes. Let's get along. But that fear, what if someone hurts me? What if I see the person who I've not forgiven? How do you know if someone's not forgiven you? They can't look at you in the eye. They'll walk around the full room and sit over there instead of just going this way. Let go. How to practice this? We've all heard of a carbon footprint. We also have an emotional footprint, often called as emotional baggage. What we need to do is, we need to learn to tease ourselves and tease other people in a gentle way. In other words, I should be lighthearted about my weaknesses, my faults, and I should highlight yours in a gentle way. Because then we are not holding on to these negativities. People who don't know how to laugh at themselves, the whole world laughs at them. But people who know how to laugh at themselves, the whole world laughs with them. Learn to laugh at yourself. We're so uptight and fearful. Again, public speaking. What are people going to say about me? What are they going to say? You don't know how to speak, so what? Maybe you don't know how to speak. Learn. But even if you do, who cares? But that baggage, we just hold on to it. Tease gently. This is the key to, with significant others, this is so important. Some couples are so serious and they're so tight that if you push a little bit, it breaks like a string. But if everyone's flexible, everything is well then. My wife makes fun of me all the time. And it's great. It teaches me to live more lightly. I'm thankful for that. The second rain is kripa, or compassion. And I'm going to try to be brief about this. How many yugas are there? 4. In Sanatana Dharma, if you say any number, you'll be right. Whenever you ask a question about Vedanta, if it's a positive, say Brahman. If it's a negative, say the mind or Maya. Yeah. And you're always right. In Kali Yuga, and let me rewind, in Satya Yuga, the golden age, the mind was the strongest. And what everyone did during this time was they engaged in contemplation. And that's how people got enlightened. And during this time, the Devatas and the Rakshasas, the selfless and the selfish, lived in different dimensions. Heaven and hell. Then we shift to Treta Yuga, when Lord Rama was present. The mind became less potent. This is where people couldn't meditate, so they had yagas. Huge rituals with thousands of people and thousands of fires and materials. Like organizing the Masamadhi camp. That's like a yaga, literally. The whole mind is on that for a full year. This is called the Silver Age. And during this time, the Devatas and Rakshasas lived where? Different countries. Lord Rama lived in Bharat. Ravana lived in Lanka. In Dwapar Yuga, when Lord Krishna was present, the mind lost more potency, became more distracted. People couldn't do yagas. Instead of Masamadhi camps, they did CHYK retreats then, 3 days. Just as an example, relax. So the way that people were free during this time was puja. Instead of the macro, the micro. And during this time, the Devatas and the Rakshasas lived where? Same family. Kamsa was a selfish uncle. Lord Krishna and Arjuna, etc., are the noble nephews. And in Kali Yuga, the dark age, where people talk like this, which you and I are presently living in, the mind has lost most of its potency, where we can't even do puja. I don't even want to ask how many people in this room do puja, but that's proof of what the scriptures have foretold, no? That the way to be free in Kali Yuga, the dark age, is japa. Janma pati iti japa. That which protects one from being reborn again. That's why I said, only if we attach to God can we be freed from the fear of separation. During this time, where did the Devatas and Rakshasas live? Same person. Sometimes we're so selfish. Sometimes we're so selfless. And remember, we're in the first pada, or the first quarter of Kali Yuga, which means it's not going to get 40% worse, it's going to get 400% worse. So if I read the newspaper and I'm frightened by it, if I have a fear of newspapers, news, etc., it's not going to get more positive. And so a message here is, get realized and get out. Otherwise, be ready. This was foretold not even millennia ago, yugas ago. Scientists don't even know what a yuga is. This is the pace we're going on. That's why compassion is needed now more than ever. The word compassion comes from Latin, which means the ability to suffer with another person. That is what compassion means. In Vedanta, we call it identification. In bhakti, we call it love or devotion. These are all synonyms with each other. And to make this more clear, apathy. What is a synonym of apathy? Hatred. Apathy is worse than ignorance. In ignorance, I don't know you have a problem. In apathy, I know you have a problem and I still look the other way. That means I hate you. Sympathy. Synonym for that? Fear. Why? I know you have a problem, but my problem's more important. I feel for you, but I don't take this next step to help you. There's that fear. Fear is separation. The synonym for empathy, love. That I know you have a problem, and I feel for you, and I will do what it takes to let go of that challenge, that hurt, that pain. What does this mean for us CHYKs? We want everyone to understand us, don't we? When we speak, when we write, even when we don't speak or write, we want people to understand us. This is why we say, Ma Vibhishana. May we not quarrel, may we understand each other. But the question is, do we empathize with people to try to understand them? For those who get the Acharya, I wrote a quote, it's not mine, from someone else that said, we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. Everything's about debating, arguing, proving points. And even as I'm hearing, perhaps as you're hearing this, yeah, I can't wait to tell my friends about this. This is what they should do. When I meet spouses, oh man, as soon as I say this, they nudge each other. He's talking to you. This message is for you. Nobody wants to practice. It's always for someone else. See, that's listening to reply, not listening to understand. And again, why is this related to fear? Because this is what we do. When we speak, we have the fear, maybe that person's not paying attention to me. And that fear kicks in then. At a practical level, our scriptures say a sadhu, a sage is someone who treats their own mountain of a problem as a molehill, and the other person's molehill of a problem as a mountain. That's what makes a sage versus a servant of life. We have to remember the idea of Mona. I had once spent 168 hours by myself, and during this time I learned to listen to myself. It's shared that in prayer, you talk to God. In meditation, God talks to you. God is always talking to us, but are we, like Lord Krishna asked Arjuna, are you listening with undivided attention? How to practice this? When someone is speaking to you, don't even open your mouth. You know, we say, yeah, I understand. Don't even open your mouth, because then all I'll be doing is listening. So if you want to acknowledge them, say, like that. Because so often we question them, but what happened? Or we're talking, you're listening to someone and then slowly, and our mouth opens bigger and bigger. So don't even open your mouth, because it'll become training in listening then. And a lot of people just want to be heard. So I said, a lot of the times with physicians, all a patient wants is to be heard. On NPR, they were saying, in a workplace, when a supervisor criticizes an employee, that's better than ignoring an employee. Samadana danda bheda. In the art of persuasion, the last is bheda, separation. If I ignore you, that's worse than if you criticize me, at least you know I'm there. But in ignoring them, that's worse. So let us practice listening. So, mouths closed, just listen. The first rain was kshama, the second rain was kripa, Now the third rein, and there's only 3 reins, and I was trying to think of why there's only 3 reins. For the 4 horses, the reins would go in between. Horse 1 and horse 2 would be 1 rein, 2 and 3 would be another rein, 3 and 4 would be another rein. That's why there's 3 reins. I just made that up. I don't know, I've never rode a chariot before, but I was trying to think of why there's only 3 reins. So if you have a better reason, then please feel free to share, because I would like to know. Remember I asked you yesterday about the Yaksha who asked Yudhishthira what the most surprising facet of life is? Remember I had asked you that? Remember yesterday? Remember me? Another question that this Yaksha asks Yudhishthira is, who is the one who is ever wealthy? Everyone wants to be wealthy, and we think the stock market is the way, being a physician is the way, stealing is the way. Who is the person who is ever wealthy? And Yudhishthira answers. He says the person who is even-minded. Because if it's hot or cold, they're fine. When there's food or no food, they're fine. When they have to sleep in a room with 4 people or 1 person, they're fine. I'm sure some of you are cranky. Why do I have to share a room with 4 people? Such a person is fine. The third rein is called samata, or evenness. And specifically, these are all mental functions we're talking about. I don't mean evenness of muscles. Evenness of mind. Evenness of muscles is good too. You shouldn't be lopsided in strength. Evenness. At a spiritual level, this world is uneven, which is why we need to be even. Everything is changing. The weather was, this morning it was snowing a lot. Now it's not snowing. Tomorrow it may be sunny. The world is uneven. So what to do? Be even-minded. Sun is out, smile. Sun is not out, smile. Don't go out and buy a light and bask in that fake light and say, yeah, now I have sun. Samatha. Seasonal affective disorder, I recognize that. What is the cure? This. Vibhishana Gita. That's what people should take to overcome this. For we CHYKs, the word Aryan, contrary to what we think it means, the pure-blooded, the noble ones, etc., how it's been defamed like that. What Pujya Swami Chinmayananda says, an Aryan is the one who is a master of circumstances. And we see that in professional sports. Someone like LeBron James is an Aryan of basketball. He can help the worst player become better. When there's a lot of pressure, he can still act well. And don't knock him. He is a great player right now, okay? So the one who is a master of circumstances. Unfortunately, we tend to believe that we are victims of circumstances. My parents made me the way who I am. That I was in one city and then I had to go from this high school to this university. This is the way that I am. And sob stories continue. We are not victims unless we choose to be victims. When we depend on circumstances, we are victims and there will always be fear. Because circumstances, like was shared at a spiritual level, are uneven. Jagat, and I won't get into the details of Sanskrit, Jagat, samsara, sharira, universe, society, body are always changing. That's what these words mean. I have to learn to stop depending on circumstances, and that was shared today. How poetically Pujya Swami Chinmayananda said, don't put the key to happiness in someone else's pocket. But what does the world teach? Be attached. That's the only way you can be happy. And then we say, yeah, you're right. And then we play the game. And Pujya Swami Chinmayananda, Tejamayana says so powerfully, people who live like that are plants. They can only grow in a certain environment. They can't grow in any other different environment. But we know how to adapt physically. Why don't we learn to adapt mentally? people who are strong in muscle, good for them. The people who are strong in mind, better for them. This body is evolved to its peak. We don't have tailbones anymore, or slowly they're going away. Every generation has less hair. We don't need hair anymore for warmth. We use coats. Whenever I make this statement to adults, all the bald people, they're so happy when I make this comment. Finally, something good about us. Our teeth are becoming flatter. We don't have to tear food anymore. We need to grind food now. But no one can do that consciously. I can't sit here and make my hair go away or my teeth flatter. It just happens. But that doesn't mean evolution is done. Now the field for evolution is the mind. To learn to adapt the mind. And we humans have been given the best tools for that. And everyone in this room has been given even better tools. Platinum tip tools, being in the presence of masters and scriptures. How to practice this evenness? This is a riddle that Swami Dhirananda had asked. And I've asked you many times. This is a refresher. What 4-word phrase, and each word has 4 letters, when you say it to the happy person, they become sad. And when you say it to the sad person, they become happy. How many words in the phrase? 4. Magic answer again. How many letters in each word? Happy person becomes? Sad person becomes? All English words. Second word is this. Third word is will. He says it all the time. It's Puja Swami Chinmay, not my friend here. Even this will pass. That is how to stay even-minded. When matters are tough, even this will pass. When matters are good, don't be attached, because even this will pass. And so we definitely don't forget, remember the riddle, and also the inside cover of your book. Don't read it now, but do read that, and that will help you to remember this third reign, which is evenness. What was the first reign? Forgiveness, compassion, and evenness. Okay, we continue. Everyone can turn to page 34. Let's read together. Isa bhajanu sarati sujana birati charma santosha kripana dana parasubudhi shakti prachanda barabigyana katina kodanda amala achala manatrona samana samajama niyamasili mukhanana kavacha abheda bipra guru puja ehi sama bijaya upayana duja. Bhagavan Rama is talking to who? To who? Vibhishana. And he's now describing the charioteer of this Dharmaratha. We have wheels, we have flags, we have horses, and we have reins, but if there's no driver, what is the point? I have a Porsche Cayenne sitting in my parking lot, but I don't have keys. It's not really useful then, is it? If we put the best driver behind this chariot, in this chariot, then that becomes the best chariot. And so what Lord Rama says here, this is which virtue? This is number 13. Bhajana. What do we need? We need devotion. Bhaja, I said bhajana, bhaja. Bhaja means devotion, like bhaja govindam. At a spiritual level, it means surrendering the mind to the intellect. What would be a great exercise? You should buy Holy Gita. Puja Swami Chinmayananda's Holy Gita. And every day, take a pencil, and wherever it says Bhagavan Krishna, in brackets write intellect. And wherever it says Arjuna, in brackets write mind. This is what Srimad Bhagavad Gita is. It's a dialogue between the intellect and the mind. And we sometimes fantasize this. We make this esoteric and abstract. But imagine your mind and intellect were put on a piece of paper, and this is the dialogue that they would have. That's what Srimad Bhagavad Gita is. Imagine what would be the fate of an ashram if the shishyas started teaching the gurus. What would be the fate of such an organization, of an ashram? What would be the fate if the horses started holding the reins and the charioteer started pulling the chariot then? Right? Laughable and destructive. Hence, AKA 2013, you and I. The mind is telling the intellect what to do right now. And this is what's causing all of the fear in our lives. There's this disintegration. But Srimad Bhagavad Gita is teaching us to surrender to the intellect. In a bhakti way, surrender to Bhagavan. We often want or think God is our wish fulfiller. If God was our wish fulfiller, the world would have ended who knows how long ago. Thank God God is not a wish fulfiller, especially with what's happening in the Koreas right now. He's not a wish fulfiller, he is a well-wisher. We want our CHYK organizers to give us paneer 4 times a day. But thankfully, they're not our wish fulfillers, they're our well-wishers, so they give us oranges and oatmeal and so on and so forth. This is what the nature of the Lord is, so that's why bhaja means surrender. At a CHYK level, bhaja also means to seek. Seek self-development. What is yoga in the simplest way? Change. Yoga is change. Yoga is self-development. Yoga is betterment. Yoga is kaizen. Toyota, Honda, continuous improvement. That's what yoga is. This means that we have to be engaged in this. But when it comes to self-development, for whatever reason, we become miserly. I will watch 3 movies in the evenings, but I will only go to 1 satsang. I don't need to go to more than 1 satsang. I'll read 50 pages of a fantasy novel, only 1 page of Bhaja Govindam is enough. Why should I read more than that? This kripanaha, this behavior comes out. When it comes to taking the Lord's name, 27 times is enough. Why 54? It's not like his name changes. We have more faith in our own names than the Lord's name. Bhagavan has said, if you call me, I will come to you and free you from this samsara. But we have our own faith in our own name. Just go to that restaurant owner, tell them you know me. They'll give you a good table. Right? This is me and you, jivas. And Bhagavan is saying he'll free us? No. Yeah, right, you can do that. That's being a miser in thinking. This is what Bhagavan is saying is seek. True intelligence is surrender. Surrender is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. Even now, it is Bhagavan who's looking after us. But because we don't know that, we put the burden of looking after ourselves on ourselves. Who's causing our heart to beat? Who's causing digestion to happen, the law of gravity to work, etc., etc.? Puja Swami Tejamananda shared with us, thankfully we don't control our digestion, that it's involuntary. Because if we controlled it and had to voluntarily digest, we're too lazy. We wouldn't even do it then. And it would only turn into illness. Bhagavan is always with us. We just don't have the eyes to see Bhagwan. You know who did? Prahlad. He saw Bhagwan in the microphone. He saw Bhagwan in the pillar. He saw Bhagwan in his own father who tried to kill him numerous times. Bhagwan, please bring my father back. What a son. This is history. This is not a story. History. The people lived like this. Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya, when his mother is dying, he came back from the north to be with her. No one would help take the body to the cremation ground. So I'm told that he had to cut up the pieces just to lift the pieces of his mother. That's out of love, not out of sickness. But my point in this is that he saw the Lord in his own mother. We often think sannyasis, then the family's over here, they're over here. I was with Swami Dhirananda, and a Balavihara student came up to him and said, Swamiji, did you have to give up your family to become Swamiji? And he pulls his beard like Swami Dhirananda does and kind of puts his hair back and says, and I just met Swamiji at the time. I was like, whoa, he's intense. I didn't have to give up my family to become Swamiji. Rather, I became part of all families to become Swamiji. What a solid way of thinking. Very unmiserly like. People live like this. If we call Bhagwan, Bhagwan will be our charioteer. If Duryodhana asked Lord Krishna to be his charioteer, Lord Krishna would have said, yes. Lord Rama told Ravana, just bring my wife back. That's it. And I'm walking away. But he just couldn't do it. But see how much love, the nature of love, that the Lord is the embodiment of. 3 secrets to practicing devotion. These are secrets because we've made them secrets. Nothing more than that. But please try to remember this. It will really help us develop devotion. Number 1. God, the Creator, Bhagwan, is not interested in ability. He, she is interested in availability. How available are we for Bhagwan? We think God is partial. Conversely, we're partial. Sometimes we choose God, sometimes we don't. He's always choosing us. But if we don't choose him, that can't flow then. Availability. Those squirrels were available. The only relationship Bhagwan Rama knows is devotion. Those squirrels that would run into the water of the beach. Yeah, you're all thinking, squirrels. Where in the world is he going with squirrels right now? What is that band, Squirrel X? Is that what it's called? Yeah, whatever. I was telling, when we were coming here yesterday, I was talking about something. And I was like, oh no, soon I'm going to be one of those acharyas that was cool, but it's not cool anymore. And then they reminded me was cool. Back to Ramayana. The squirrels, when they saw Lord Rama's bridge being built, they would run into the water and wet their fur, and then they would run into the sand and roll around, so those pebbles would stick to their fur. Then they would run onto the bridge and shake themselves, and those pebbles, those grains of sand, would fill in the cracks. And you see pictures of Bhagwan Rama with the squirrels in his hands or around him. That he's not interested if someone can throw boulders or trees. It is the availability. And that means devotion is open to everyone, not just those who are of a religious temperament that we tend to presume. Anyone. Second secret. Bhagwan does not give us problems without giving us the power to face those problems. And so our responsibility is to find that power within us We will never be given a problem without the power to face that problem. We simply have to find that power. And that power is not going to come from outside. It will come from inside. And the third secret, Bhagavan will always give us a little bit less than what I'll use the word for conversation's sake, what we want. Because when he's given us a little bit less, we'll keep looking to him for more. But if we have what we want, like before tea time, some people fell asleep near the door. All right, done, just lie down. If we all had what we wanted, we would just sleep. And this is why Puja Swami Tejamananda says every center should have a mortgage. Because when a center has a mortgage, they keep working. That's why you see our centers that keep expanding then. If they don't have a mortgage, they'll keep expanding so that everyone keeps working then. Keeps up the work. Strong secrets, aren't they? If we remember that, just bhaja then. Bhaja means seek, bhaja means serve, bhaja means worship, bhaja means surrender. I will do all of these if I remember this. Bhagavan is now our charioteer, and now we get into the fun stuff. We saw the wheels, the flags, the horses, the reins, the charioteer. But what do we really want to hear when it comes to war? Weapons. What weapons do you have, Lord Rama, that will help you face Ravana? What are these weapons? First, we have to get into the enemies. How many enemies do each and every one of us have that are common in this room right now? I asked a group of students this once, and I was waiting for them to say anger, desire, etc. One girl goes Priya and Deepak and John. She starts listing them. And that will be one of the practices is teach Balavihar. It's hilarious and a great way to learn. We all have 6 common enemies. They're called the Shad Ripavaha. That is Kama or desire. Krodha, anger. Lobha, greed. Moha, delusion. Mada, arrogance. Matsarya, jealousy, envy. These are our 6 enemies, and we need weapons to face these 6 enemies. On that note, do you know why Ravana has 10 heads? Not 10 egos, we have 1 ego. If we had 10 egos, oh man. Today, when we were going through the death exercise, my last goal was enlightenment, and I was thinking to myself, if I have to give this up, then what is the point in anything? I was genuinely sad when I had to give that up. I'll answer questions afterwards, yeah? 6 enemies. What are the weapons? There are 2 types of weapon descriptions in Vibhishana Gita. The ones you hold in your hand are called Shastra, not Shastra. Shastra means scripture. That is a weapon, a positive weapon too. That's the best weapon, really speaking. And the weapons that you release from your hand are called Astra. Shastra and Astra. So first we study the Shastras. The first Shastra is the shield. And what this shield represents, what it symbolizes, which virtue? Vairagya. Vairagya is the shield. If we break down the word Vairagya, it really means Viraga. Raga means color. And whenever we think of color, Holi is coming up, we think of red. Rang, like in Rang Barse, like in Hindi movies. So when I wear red glasses, what color is the world? Red. But if I remove colors from my glasses, then I see the world as it is. That's what the word Vairagya means. And that's why we often define it as dispassion or detachment. The best understanding of vairagya that I've invoked is independence. That I see the world as it is, independently. One of the comments made earlier today is why we fear failure is because it'll cause unhappiness. Have you ever thought of why we get attached to popularity, to people, to possessions, to power, to pleasure? Because we project happiness onto that. That this watch will bring me happiness. But if this watch brought me happiness, it should bring everyone happiness. But that's not the case, because you don't project happiness on this like I do. One's parent only brings happiness to that child, not to all children. Spouse, brother, sister, etc. We project happiness and then we get lost in that article, being, circumstance. And Adi Shankaracharya shares this so powerfully about sense objects. He begins describing 5 animals who are lost with one sense object. For example, a moth. Moths are infatuated with light. And what's the fate of a moth? It goes into that hot light or the fire and it gets burned up. Elephants are infatuated by touch. So in the mating season, that's how they're caught, with touch. Then he says, what would be the fate of an animal that's infatuated by all 5 sense objects, all 5 sense organs? That's us. For those who are like, what would be the fate? That is you and me. Ravana's 10 heads represent the 5 organs of perception and the 5 organs of action. He has no discipline with these 10 heads. If you read Ramayana, if you read even Ashok Bankar's Ramayana, you see each of those heads are talking in a different language to a different direction. No coordination. Disintegration causes his destruction. And Adi Shankaracharya then says, the sense objects are more dangerous than cobra poison. If I have a bottle of cobra poison beside me, it doesn't do anything to me. It's only if this poison gets into my flesh, into this ecosystem, that it will start destroying the ecosystem. But I sit before all of you and I say, Johnny Depp. I say, cheesecake ice cream. I say, all-inclusive in the Bahamas. I've only said random words and none of you are here right now. Everyone's gone to a different place. That's the sense objects. I don't even have to put them, I don't even have to put ice cream in my mouth. I just have to think about it. And I'm lost. The sense objects are not the problem. It is my relationship with the sense objects. Money's not the problem. It's me being lost in money. Me projecting happiness is the problem. At a CHYK level, generally, you and I are free of attachment when it comes to beings. Generally. Most people in this room are not married. Most people in this room don't have children. Our friends come and go. But 2 beings that we are having a very difficult time from practicing this with are our parents, isn't it? Especially as they get older. It's quite difficult for us to practice this independence. But even with our parents, we have to practice this. Not just for our welfare, but for their welfare too. Like was shared today, if I put the key to my happiness in my mother or father's pocket, then as they get older and they become more incapacitated, they're going to have so much pressure on them about what's going to happen to me. But if I learn to be independent, they will be at ease then. Like a good leader in our CHYK discussions too. When you have a good leader there, the Acharya doesn't have to worry then. They know that the discussion will go well. See the importance of independence? As we talk about projecting happiness, how do we know if we do this? The gauge of whether we are extroverted, if we do this or not, there's like 2 gauges. The first gauge is I go about thinking that articles, beings, and circumstances will make me happy. If I think that, there's no independence in my life. If I think when I get married I'm going to be happy, I will only be attached in that relationship. If I think when I change jobs then I'll be happy, again, circumstantial. The second gauge, when I have strong attraction and aversion to these A, B's, and C's. Oh, oatmeal, this is the worst camp ever. Aversion, right? Oh, paneer, best camp ever. Attraction. The world is uneven. See, this is that extroverted. I'm projecting happiness. And then there will be fear. What if tomorrow morning there's oatmeal, all right? Tomorrow's Mahashivratri for me. I'm fasting all day till lunch. This is going to break us down. Show yourself that you can be independent. How? Be alone. I don't mean in the long term. It's not okay, don't get married. I'm not saying that. I'm encouraging you to get married and learn about sacrifice. I'm saying be alone when going to a movie, when eating, going for a walk. These are some of the assignments I've given some of our chicks. Go to a movie by yourself. Buy the ticket by yourself, sit by yourself. Go to a fancy sit-down restaurant, and when they say a table for two, no, say one. Be alone. Two things will happen. Number one, we'll realize how dependent we are. When we realize it, we'll be like Prince Arjuna and start to practice independence. Many of you, for work, you'll move to a different city. Good. Go to a different center and get connected there. Live in a different country. Travel. Be alone. Practice being alone. And at a very tangible level, this week, go to a movie, go to a restaurant, do something that you're supposed to do with another person by yourself. Go to a museum by yourself. And watch. That will help us with independence. Next weapon. I have my shield. Now I need my sword. This sword is called santosha. Santosha means contentment. One of our acharyas had once shared with us, not tips for happy living, tips for unhappy living. And here are two of the tips. One is, take everything as personally as possible. Especially when it comes to electronic communication. That is pramana, that is authority. Another tip is, ignore what you have and expect what you don't have. If I live like that, I will definitely be unhappy. I'd once shared a full list of these tips for unhappy living with the center. And on the last day, there was a Q&A. And that's all people wanted to know. What were those tips for unhappy living again? I spent 3 days on purity of mind, and this is what they wanted to know. Tips for unhappy living. Lord Krishna, in chapter 2 of Gita, has shared that contentment is the most fundamental virtue. If one has this, they have every virtue. Because at the end of the day, what do you and I want? Happiness, peace. At a spiritual level, contentment is the virtue that will end all vices. If I have contentment, there is no desire. If I have no desire, there's no anger. If there's no anger, there's no greed. Everything ends with virtue. And how to practice contentment? As this is shared, we keep thinking about material contentment. I will only need a 2,000 square foot home, then I'll be content. It's much deeper than that. And even in the exercise we did today, the photo scavenger hunt, some groups were quite deep in their thinking of how they presented the ideas. Some took it more at a relative level, and that's fine, it's a scavenger hunt. But these questions that were given are not to be taken lightly. Like one of the groups today, again, I reiterate, why do we fear failure? It's not for the sake of failure. It's because it's going to cause me to be unhappy. If I'm playing tea party with you and I fail, I don't care. Because it's not going to make me unhappy. But if I believe that this is going to cause me to be unhappy, then there is that fear then. The means to contentment is doing your best. When we do our best, we are content. And I know that's not what we want to hear. And for all of this, I know we want to hear, okay, tell me what to eat or tell me what to do. Then I'll practice fearlessness. It doesn't work like that. This is a deep-rooted challenge, which means I have to go just as deep into my personality to pull that thorn out. When we do our best, why is this the means to contentment? Because the result comes simultaneously. When you and I study for an exam, many of your students, and we feel that the result is when our mark comes in. But isn't it while you're studying, you're learning too? Your result is right there. Why is it that we allow that exam to determine my happiness and it's in the future? Why do I make the paycheck the fruit? Even in this journey, why do we make getting over, being free of anger as the fruit when the challenge, the tapas of overcoming anger is being the fruit? It's right in front of us. This is why in the Bible it's shared, we walk more by faith than by sight. At least we should. It seems like to be the other way around now. Now we walk more by sight than by faith. At a CHYK level, today many people shared, yeah, it was easy to let go of possessions. It was harder for goals and people. Try. Do it. It's easy to put down a piece of paper. Try to go without a phone. Try to go out without a laptop. Try to give up whatever you wrote down as possessions. That's a real gauge to see if one's content or not. Because if I can't be without that, that's not contentment. That's called dependence. It is difficult to let go of possessions. It is more difficult to let go of a subtler want of ours, a desire of ours. That is judgment. The picture that we took over here, that the homosexual couple that is getting married, we put that for fear of failure because the whole world will judge them. It's too bad. I'm not saying that that's right, but the world will judge them. And often that causes people not to follow their passion. We had good discussions about that today. We fear judgment because we put the fruit in another person's hand. That if you like me, then I can be content. But if you don't like me, I can't be content. But if I do my best, what else can I do? If you still don't like me, why should I cry about that? It's your loss, not mine. I can only do what I can do. Fear of judgment. And we fear judgment because we play the same game. I've mentioned this a few times now, this judgment. Eckhart Tolle shares, if you can do something about something, then do it and don't stress. If you can't do something about something, then you can't do anything, so don't stress. In other words, what Srimad Bhagavad Gita is saying is, do your best, period. When we don't follow this common sense, it limits our potential. With people especially, I fear being around you for you judging me. Then I can't look at you in the eye. My confidence comes down, confidence slowly devolves into anxiety, anxiety slowly devolves into depression. Then I can't be around people. In our scriptures it says, Lobhat papasya karanam. That the cause of papa, of sin, is lobha, greed. The greed of positive judgment. As I sit here before you, all I can control is my words. I cannot control if you are understanding or not. But if I have that greed of your affirmation of me, I will begin to break down in enjoyment and in effectiveness then. How to practice contentment? Have a gratitude guide. A very popular TV spokesperson, she's called this a gratitude journal. She copied me. If I had a chance to patent it, I would be quite wealthy and I would donate it all to Chinmay Mission, like you should. Have a gratitude guide. Just a simple book like this. I can show you mine in my room. And every day, before you begin your day, write down one reason you are grateful. It could be snow tires. That's a reason to be grateful. Clean water. That's also a reason to be grateful. One boy said glasses. For those who have glasses, contact lenses, without these, we couldn't drive, we couldn't read, we couldn't use computers, we'd have headaches all the time. Being grateful for corrective lenses. Okay, I'm taking 5 more minutes, and then we're going to complete the Shastras. Tomorrow we'll begin on the Astras, the missiles. The next Shastra, I said there's a shield, there's a sword, and there is a, last one is a axe, battle axe. And this is dana, or charity. Today, some people said that their last goal that they'd like to do is to volunteer for CORD. What Puja Swami Tejamananda has shared about CORD, charity should come from one's own feeling of abundance. See how it's connected to contentment? And contentment's connected to independence? These are not random virtues. At a spiritual level, when we are fully aware that everything you and I need comes freely, food for you and I comes freely, water comes freely, oxygen comes freely, warmth comes freely, for you and I, not for everyone, but for you and I, this all comes freely from the creation. It's a sign for you and I to give freely too. Especially to those people who don't have enough food, don't have enough water, don't have enough safety, don't have enough education. You and I have been given all of this freely. I would say 95% of us didn't pay for school when we went to university, that our parents did. At least we can help other people who can't afford to go to school then. Like that. Anything more that comes beyond Maslow's hierarchy of needs, anything more than my needs is bonus. It's an extra. And that should be my attitude towards that. When one gets a bonus, one shares it then. In Indian tradition, which is much better than Western tradition, on your birthday, what do? Treat other people on your birthday. It's smart because what did we have to do on our birthday? Our parents did the work, the nurses, the doctor. We did nothing on our birthday. We caused the problem. But we want to be rewarded for that. See how deep Sanatana Dharma is. I wish we can even have a drop of this Vidya Sagar and we would rise in love, literally just love the scriptures and sages. That's the spirit of India. At a CHYK level, if we think about what we can offer today, 3 things we can offer to the world. Resources, time, and effort. We can offer this. Now the question is, do we offer this? And this is where Lord Krishna again calls us kripanaha, misers, stenaha, thieves. Why? Because even if someone is happy, we ask them, why are you happy? Right? I can't even smile at you without you expecting something in return, or me expecting something in return. That vanik buddhi, everything's a transaction. If you don't love me, why should I love you? It's not a marriage, that's a transaction. That's going to a department store. This idea of that I will only give if I get. Puja Swami Tejamananda writes an interesting conversation. The $100 bill and $50 bill are hanging out, the 20s and the 10s and the 5s and the 1s. And they get into a conversation. And each is asking, what kind of places in the world have you seen? And the 50s and the 10s are saying, we're always in the casinos in Las Vegas, and we go to these nice restaurants, and that's where this exchange happens. Okay? The 20s and 10s, they begin to narrate, we're usually in the stores when people are buying shampoos and grocery and so on and so forth. Then the 1s and 5s begin to speak. We usually hang out at the temples and churches. That's where, that's when the donation box goes around, then people are putting the stuff that is annoying in their purse, the coins, that what they put in there. And have you ever seen people when they do that, they look to see if anyone's looking, then they put it in there. And they fake it too, like, oh yeah, I'm putting a lot. Dana is concentrated training. Remember I said this is all training? Charity is concentrated training. Suppose I have 5 kurtas and I give one to you. So 5 kurtas, I'm this happy, but now I have 4 kurtas, which means I have to train myself to be happy with 4 instead of 5. Then I give another kurta away, train myself harder. Wayne Gretzky added a whole nother layer to his hockey puck when he was training, so that when he used the actual puck, it was lighter and smaller. Michael Jordan added a whole ring into that basketball hoop, so in the regulation net, the ball would go through there. Concentrated training. Like traveling. Traveling is concentrated training in adaptation to language, to food, to time zones, to people. It's shared in our scriptures, Vidyadanam, Mahadanam, that the greatest charity you and I can offer is knowledge. And so the way to practice this, teach Balavihar. Everyone in this room should be a co-teacher or a primary teacher of Balavihar, or leading a CHYK discussion, or leading a CHYK discussion. That is how to live with this battle axe against fear. And many of you are doing it. All of you can do it. We can. We must. Now either we can say we will or be that boy and say we wish. But if you say we wish, then also say, I wish I could overcome fear. They will go hand in hand. It's a choice we make. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.